Hello, high level listeners, and welcome back to another English vocabulary podcast episode. Have you ever been talking to someone in English and they say something like,
Wow, your English is so good. Where did you learn English?
"Oh, well, I study English. I don't know what to say." So, in this vocabulary podcast episode, we'll show you some great casual and natural sounding phrases so you can feel more confident in your English skills.
Yes, that's right. Welcome back to High Level Listening. My name's Mark, the British teacher here at High Level Listening. And together with Kat from the US, we give you side by side American and British English classes to take your English to the next level.
And today's episode is all about how to talk about studying English. Where did you study? Where did you learn? Why did you learn it? Actually, native speakers are often really interested in how you learned our language. I ask people all the time, especially when you start to sound so natural from learning English here on High Level Listening.
Yes, of course. And remember, if you'd like to study more closely with us, you can find over 100 study guides with PDF transcripts, ad-free MP3 versions. There's listening practice activities and picture dictionaries for every episode. You can follow along with every word and get more from every episode if you get the pack in the link in the description below. They're 50% off as well. Okay, so a quick question before we read our stories. Where do you learn English? That's where did you learn English? Where did you learn English? That's the question I'll ask Kat today, and we'll both share each of our stories in American and British English. So, Kat, where did you learn English?
So I first started learning English at school, but I didn't really use it much back then. It was like in one ear and out the other. Then in college, I went to study abroad, and honestly, that changed everything. I chatted with friends, used it at work, got a boyfriend who only spoke English. That's pretty good motivation, right? I've forgotten a lot, but I can definitely still hang, and I love chatting with people when I get the chance. All right, so that's my American story. And what about you, Mark? Where'd you learn English?
It's funny because I was rubbish at school. I scraped by all my English exams. I only picked it up as an adult because I got a job at a hotel and I got thrown in at the deep end. I had to learn on the fly. Nowadays, I pick up phrases I hear in shows and music as well. My grammar's a bit shaky, but I can definitely get by in most situations. Okay, so those are both of our stories. Don't worry if you didn't catch everything the first time. We're about to go back through them one more time from the beginning, and we'll highlight and explain the best vocabulary and phrases about learning English or your experiences learning another language. So, back to the start of your story, Kat. Where'd you learn English again?
I guess I first started learning English at school, but I didn't really use it much back then. This is very common for most of our English students. I first started learning English at school. If I learned something at school, I'm kind of thinking primary school, middle school, high school, and that was at school. So I first started learning English at school, but I didn't really use it much back then.
One part of this sentence I really like is I first started. I like that in English, the first time you do something, I first studied, I first joined, I first
Mm.
started. I like that you said I first started learning English at school.
Because that was my first time learning. That was my first time studying it. Absolutely. I didn't really use it much back then. So that makes sense. You learn it for school, it's academic. You don't really use it in real life. And I didn't really use it much back then. In the past, when I was in school, back then, kind of in my past, right? Yeah, I didn't really use it much back then. What about you, Mark? Did you learn English at school too?
Yes, I did. It's funny because I was rubbish at school. I scraped by all my English exams. So, this is another common situation we've heard from students and people who speak English at a very high level. It's funny because this is a really good way to start a story. It's funny. Funny in English can have two meanings. Funny, like ha ha ha, it makes me laugh. And funny can be interesting or maybe strange or surprising. So it's surprising because, it's funny because, or if something is weird, you're like, huh, that's funny. I'm not laughing, but it's funny because it's unusual or interesting. So it's funny because I was rubbish. I was rubbish. I was terrible. I was horrible at school. This means that I wasn't a very good student. Maybe my exam scores and my test scores were not very high. It could also mean that I wasn't really listening to the teacher. I wasn't a very focused or well-behaved student. And they would tell me things, but I couldn't remember them. I was rubbish at school. Again, I've
Very
heard this
British,
story.
very British.
Yeah, rubbish too. What would you say in the US?
I would probably say, well, I'm such a good student, so but
I don't know.
I would probably say, oh, I was really bad at English in school. I was really
Right.
bad at it.
Sure. Yes, I was horrible. I was rubbish. I was terrible at school. I scraped by all my English exams. I scraped by. I scraped by. Maybe the score I needed to pass the test is here, and I got 1% or one more enough to pass. I just passed. I scraped by. That means I was very, very close to failing, but I just did enough to get the grades I needed. So I scraped by all my English exams. So, yeah, I'm the same as you, really. I feel like I never remember anything I learned at school.
Yeah, it was like in one ear and out the other.
Nice.
Okay, so this is an idiomatic expression. It's not literal, but it's in one ear and out the other. And that kind of gives you a visual. You hear the information, maybe it sits in your brain for a day, an hour, a minute, and then it's gone. It's left. So it was like in one ear and out the other. This is a good kind of fun phrase when someone says, oh my gosh, I don't remember anything we did yesterday. Oh, that teacher was so boring. I don't remember anything. So in one ear and out the other. And we will keep this together, not in her ear or in an ear. It's in one ear and out the other. Okay, so then when did you really start learning English?
I only picked it up as an adult because I got a job at a hotel and I got thrown in at the deep end. So I only picked it up as an adult. Again, I was a horrible, rubbish student, so I didn't really learn English. I picked it up. If you pick up something, it's another way to say you learn something. So I picked up cycling, I picked up photography, and I picked up English. We know we're talking about English, so I picked it up as an adult. And I needed to because I got a job at a hotel. If you work anywhere near tourism, you're much more likely to come across English, having English-speaking customers, even if they're not from an English-speaking country. That's the language we use internationally for a lot of places. And I got thrown in at the deep end. So I worked in a hotel, and that was the first time I was in an English-speaking environment. This was very new, and maybe I wasn't ready for it, or it was difficult at first. I got thrown in at the deep end. This is an expression that's not literal. The deep end is usually a swimming pool, or if you are learning to swim and your teacher throws you into the pool, you have to start swimming. You have no choice but to learn. So it can be scary and stressful and tiring, but it's somehow the fastest way to learn for some people. So that was me. I started working at the hotel. I was suddenly surrounded by English, so I had to swim. I had to learn very quickly. So I got thrown in at the deep end. It's like full immersion. All right, so what about you? I know school was a struggle. How did you end up learning to speak English so naturally then?
Well, then in college, I went to study abroad, and that changed everything. So, kind of like you, Mark, I studied at school and I was a good student, but I've just forgotten everything, right? That's pretty normal. But then in college, I went to study abroad. So, those are the 4 years after high school. You're usually around age 18 to around age 21. We have 4 years of college. So, in college, I went to study abroad. So we can study abroad, live abroad, work abroad. That means I went to another country. I studied abroad. I lived abroad. I worked abroad. We can even use volunteer. I volunteered abroad. And it's kind of the fun phrase to just mean you left the country, you went to a new country to do that. So I went to study abroad, and that changed everything. Just like Mark, once you're living in it, once you're talking to people, communicating with people, that changed everything. I started to really like it at that point. Okay, well, it sounds like you got thrown in the deep end. How was that? That sounds really stressful.
Yeah, I had to learn on the fly. I had to learn on the fly. That's the three-word phrase, on the fly. That means I had to learn it while I was doing it. I had to learn things quickly and immediately as they happened. A similar phrase would be I had to learn on the job.
Mhm.
On the job is the same.
On
I
the
was
go,
working. Oh, yeah, on the go. I had to learn
go,
on the
on the
go.
fly, on the job, definitely.
Right. That means you learn it as you do it. So maybe I was working at the reception desk and some guests came in and started speaking in English. And maybe they used a word that I'd never heard. I need to look it up and use it right then. That is learning on the fly. Again, it's an intense way to learn. It's a stressful way to learn. But for many people, it's one of the fastest ways to learn. Just throw in the deep end and learn on the go, on the job. Well, you went to study abroad. That's very cool. That sounds like a great opportunity to learn real English.
Yeah, I chatted with friends, used it at work, got a boyfriend who only spoke English. Pretty good motivation, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm talking about what I did in the past. Okay, it's finished, it's done. So I chatted with friends, used it at work, got a boyfriend who only spoke English. When you get a boyfriend, this is another way to say I had a boyfriend. Yeah, I got a boyfriend. It almost sounds like I went out looking for one as well. So I
Yeah.
got myself a boyfriend. I got a
Like you were
boyfriend
looking
who
for one
only
like
spoke
you.
English. I know I was
You
really
speak English,
looking
right?
for somebody.
Yeah.
Now, it is really funny because this is actually how I learned French in the past. I got a boyfriend who only spoke French. And every time I say something like that, someone always replies to me, "Oh, well, that's pretty good motivation, right?" So it's kind of a funny way to say that, getting a boyfriend, getting a girlfriend, dating someone is really good motivation to learn the language. And yes, native speakers use this all the time. People say it to me all the time, and it really is pretty good motivation, right? Yeah, I think so, for sure.
Right.
Okay, so Mark, it sounds like you worked at a hotel, but do you kind of study English now? Do you still work at the hotel?
Hmm. Not anymore. Nowadays, I pick up phrases I hear in shows and music too.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah, I'm using the same phrase again. I picked it up as an adult. Now I pick up phrases I hear in shows and music. So I'm not going to school. I'm not studying with a teacher. I'm just watching English TV shows and listening to English music. And when I hear a phrase, I pick up that phrase. If I remember it and I understand it, oh, that's a good way to say that. I pick up that phrase. For some students, this is a great way to learn more casual or conversational English, much like you can on high level listening. But for some of our advanced students, they just watch films, they watch shows, they listen to music, and it's surprising how natural they can sound. So I just pick up phrases I hear in shows and music now. Okay, so last part of your story, Kat. Do you feel you're still at that level now?
Oh, man, I've forgotten a lot, but I can definitely still hang, and I love chatting with people when I get the chance. Okay, so this is a pretty confident sounding sentence, and we can start it with something like, well, I've forgotten a lot, or no, I'm definitely not at that level anymore. I've forgotten a lot. Why didn't I say I forgot a lot? Well, if I said I forgot a lot, that sounds like something that happened in the past and it's done, it's stopped. But I've forgotten a lot sounds like I forget a little bit every day, right? So I've forgotten a lot, but I can definitely still hang. This is such a good phrase. If you are pretty confident, especially in your conversational skills, yeah, you can chat with people, say hi, you can live in another country in your day-to-day life. I can definitely still hang. Hang. Now, you've heard the phrase probably hang out with people, but this has a different meaning. If you can hang, that means you can keep up. Yes, I can hear the conversation. I can say a few things that I like. I'm confident in my skills. I can definitely still hang. And I love chatting with people when I get the chance. So if I hear English and, at a table near me, or if somebody is speaking English and I can help them or something like that, or they ask me, hey, do you speak English? Absolutely. So that's when I get the chance or get the opportunity. I've forgotten a lot, but I can definitely still hang. And I love chatting with people when I get the chance. What about you, Mark? I know I've forgotten a lot, but how do you feel about your English level right now?
My grammar is a bit shaky, but I can definitely get by in most situations. So my grammar is a bit shaky. If something's shaky, then it's not perfect all the time. Maybe I make some mistakes. Maybe I just get things wrong, especially in longer sentences, but people can still understand me. My grammar's a bit shaky, but I can definitely get by in most situations. I can definitely get by. I can get by means I can survive. I can go through interactions with guests, friends, people in official positions at the bank, at the post office, and I can get what I need and we can understand each other. That is get by. Again, maybe I make some mistakes when I'm having this conversation. Maybe my grammar isn't perfect, but we can understand each other and I can get what I need. I can get by. I can go to the supermarket. I can take a taxi. I can order in a restaurant. I can get by. So my grammar's a bit shaky, but I can definitely get by in most situations.
All right. So now that we've heard all the good vocabulary, all the great phrases, and a little bit of grammar, let's hear those stories all the way through once more.
So, Kat, where'd you learn English?
So I first started learning English at school, but I didn't really use it much back then. It was like in one ear and out the other. Then in college, I went to study abroad, and that changed everything. I chatted with friends, used it at work, got a boyfriend who only spoke English. Pretty good motivation, right? I've forgotten a lot, but I can definitely still hang, and I love chatting with people when I get the chance. What about you, Mark? Where'd you learn English?
It's funny because I was rubbish at school. I scraped by all my English exams. I only picked it up as an adult because I got a job at a hotel and got thrown in at the deep end. I had to learn on the fly. Nowadays, I pick up phrases I hear in shows and in music too. My grammar's a bit shaky, but I can definitely get by in most situations.
All right, excellent. And now here's a couple of back and forth dialogues and conversations so you can hear the vocabulary once more in kind of more real life situations. So, Mark, where'd you first learn English?
Mostly at school, but honestly, it was kind of in one ear and out the other.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Things only really changed when I studied abroad. Chatting with friends and using it at work helped a lot.
Oh, for sure.
Okay, here's a second dialogue. Were you good at English at school?
Uh, Honestly, not really. I barely scrape by with most of my exams.
Yeah, same here, honestly.
But then I worked abroad and was kind of thrown in the deep end, so I had to learn on the fly just to get by.
Oh, that sounds crazy. You'll have to tell me more about it.
All right, here's dialogue number 3. Wow, Mark, your English is so good. Do you study or what?
I mostly pick up phrases from shows and music.
Oh, really? Yeah, I guess I do that too. My grammar's a bit shaky though.
Same, but I can still hang and chat with people when I get the chance.
Oh, that's super nice. I'd love to get to that level. All right. So there you go. Lots of useful vocabulary and phrases to help you talk about your English level and how you learned it in the first place.
Yes, right. And before you go, let us know in the comments, where did you learn English? See if you can use some of the phrases from this episode in your answer. We read and reply to every comment we get on YouTube, so practice with us.
And if you like these kinds of episodes with lots of vocabulary, lots of phrases, go ahead and check out our 100 episode study guide, 50% off, linked below at the bottom in the description.
Yes, thank you so much for watching and for studying with us today. We'll see you for another video here on High Level Listening very, very soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.